Get ready for Real Talk with Pasha B in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Real Talk with Pasha B. It's been a minute, but we are back. And we're back for a good reason, because this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And of course, I'm here with Sheneka.
Hey, Pasha.
Hey, Sheneka. How are you?
Wonderful. I missed you, Pasha.
I know it's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, but we're back with, let's say, our third season of Real Talk with Pasha B.
Of course, we're going to say it's the third season.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things happening this year. So this will be the first of many podcasts of 2019. And again, we're talking about mental health this podcast. And Sheneka, we have a guest.
Our guest today is Mr. Lamar Walker. He is a licensed professional counselor, and he has Mindful Works, right? Mindful Works, is it counseling? Mindful Works Counseling. And he'll be sitting in with us today as our subject matter expert. So you just won't hear us pulling facts and figures out of our behind. We actually have someone here who's going to help guide us through this conversation. So, Mr. Walker, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. As we roll into the conversation, I just want to say this year is the 70th anniversary of Mental Health Awareness Month. It was originally initiated in 1949. So, happy birthday. Happy anniversary. I think that would be more appropriate.
I think so.
Yeah. How about that? So go ahead, Pasha.
All right. So to get us started, and you know, everybody who listens to Real Talk with Pasha B knows that me and Sheneka, we talk about a lot of things on and off the air. And one of the things that came to my mind is, after seeing everything that goes on in today's society, are we actually in a mental health crisis overall?
Lamar, are we in a crisis?
There's several different crises that occurred, and we see it in the news. Overall, those changes have affected people. So they create individual crises for those individuals. So just watching the news and seeing these different things that are occurring, different deaths, they affect people in a wide range. So, I mean, I guess we can say, yeah, it's a big crisis. It's televised and we get to see it on a regular basis, and we internalize a lot of the things that are going on in our environment, and it affects us overall, yes.
So what I heard you say, and I hear this as a topic of a discussion often, just watching TV can have a traumatizing effect on individuals.
Yeah, I mean, you're constantly seeing negativity over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes you anxious and even sometimes even depressed, just watching those things. And then you even comparing your life with the other people that are you're seeing on television creates an effect as well. So, yeah.
And social media. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, and we I think social media perpetuates the good in everybody's life. Mm-hmm. So we sit back.
The highlight reel is what they call it.
The highlight reel.
Yes.
Yeah. So we scroll through daily, and we see, you know, the vacation pictures or people just the highlights of the good parts of their life, and not necessarily the normal parts of their life. So then that becomes, I believe, a psychological thing where we try to emulate, or we start questioning, well, why isn't my life like this? I think it's a cycle.
Definitely. Someone mentioned the other day, people aren't going to post what they don't want you to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And even with social media, I think people forget, and I often post this, you forget I know you in real life. So some people understand this is your highlight reel, you know, but again, a lot of people are living this fantasy, and like, I question your mental stability when it comes to you living the fantasy. Mm-hmm. You know, why is it that important to you to live this fantasy and show this fantasy all the time when some of us know you in real life?
Yeah,
you know,
the mask we wear.
The mask we wear. Absolutely.
So seeing that you are a licensed counselor and we're based in Georgia, I know you can't speak about anything specifically, but generally, what type of patients, what kind of patients do you normally see in your practice?
It fluctuates. Each year, it seems to be a pattern. I was just talking about the other day. This year, it's been a lot of African American young males and also couples that have been coming into the practice. So I've had an influx of that. Last year was a lot of African American females. So it's 1 year I'll just see a pattern of, the clients that are coming in. But I see across the board various different populations, from adults to adolescents to couples, and then various different ethnicities as well. But yeah, this year it's about a lot of couples and a lot of African American males this year.
So the men are getting help.
Thank you.
Well, the push has been from the families.
Okay.
So some of them, it's like, oh, well, my wife told me I need to come in, or the parents like, hey, I don't know what's going on. He's smoking weed every day. He's skipping school. He's irritable. How do I handle that? So yeah, they bring them in, and then we start talking about it and trying to figure out what the underlying issues are eventually.
Okay. So with that being said, with the, I'm going to say, individual side of counseling, is it usually, and once you dig into it, is it usually a certain condition that the person has, like the prevalent ones, whether it be anxiety, depression, things of that nature, or what are people coming to you for? Not even that they know that they have, but I guess overall, what are the issues that you're noticing?
A lot of depression, but like you said, they don't know that's what it is. Hey, I'm very irritable. I just feel like something's not right. I'm sleeping a lot, or there's just different changes, and they're like, hey, I know something's not right, but I don't know what it is. So I'm seeing a lot of people that are coming in with depression that's just underlined in mass. And then, for the males, the idea of depression, they feel like, that's something that females generally go through. He's like, I'm not in the bed all day. I'm not crying all day. I'm still going to work. I'm still functioning.
You're like, I'm not hormonal.
Yeah. So
I'm still hanging out. I'm still doing things.
Well, they stop hanging out.
They stop hanging out.
Because that idea of, hey, I need to stay close to home, and especially if there's financial stressors, I don't need to be hanging out. And then, hey, I don't want people to see me like this, that I don't want people to know that I'm feeling this way. So they kind of keep it isolated to in the home.
In the home.
Yeah.
So I guess that goes back to what you're saying. Instead of them probably going on their own, it's someone else telling them, hey, you need to go see somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
There's a few that come in and like, yeah, but there was some outside pressures a lot of time that said, hey, something's not right. You might need to see someone. And then, they took it upon themselves to come on in.
Okay. What about mental health conditions as it relates to trauma? I'm going to say early trauma.
Yeah, I see a lot of the men and women that come in. We start to open those things up because it's been kind of buried for a while. So it's like the thing that we don't talk about in the family. Something happened, and hey, let's just keep him away from Uncle Frank. Keep her away from Uncle Frank because Uncle Frank is a little touchy. And I generally don't start with that, but, we just try to make sure that I build enough coping skills so they can get through their regular everyday actions. But then as we continue and they feel comfortable with me, we start talking deeper and deeper into, what happened in the past. Let's look at your timeline. And they're like, this did happen, and to mask it, for a lot of males that have had a lot of trauma early on, they have that tough guy, image that they try to keep up, and they don't really, they don't want to talk about it too much. But then as we go further, we're like, yeah, this has had a serious effect on me.
I think over the years, maybe the past couple of years, definitely within the last 1 year, we're hearing a lot of celebrities coming out, and they're talking about their traumas that they're experienced. I know most recently Common came out on, he was on the Breakfast Club. I know he's on his interview trail for, I think, a book he's released, but he was talking about, as a child that he was molested by another male. Some of the other men, like Charlemagne the God, of course, R. Kelly, and I was also watching Red Table Talk. There's a basketball player, Keon Dooley. Apparently, he had a psychotic break, and through counseling, they found out it resulted or manifested as a result of him being molested as a young child as well. And I think with all of these celebrity men coming forth and talking about it, that's kind of opening the door for more and more men. I know I've spoken with Pasha before. Like, I've even had guys I know share with me. But one of the things I can tell you, some of the guys don't look at it as a traumatic experience if it was a woman who initiated. They look at it as, oh, yeah, I was 9 or 10, but, hey, I liked it or something like that. They don't look at it as molestation. So can you talk a little more about men who experience these traumatic experiences, who may not see it as something traumatizing? Like, how do you address that if someone doesn't see it as a traumatizing event? I was like, oh, yeah, she was 18 and I was 9, but I liked it. How do you get somebody to understand that, yeah, but this was molestation? You were...
Or is it even important to get them to?
Well, trauma is individualized. So what may be traumatic for one person may not be traumatic for another person. So if they don't see it as trauma, we may not say, hey, this is traumatic. But we will look at the effect of that particular incident has had on them. Mm-hmm. So, hey, I had this experience at a young age. Since then, I've been very hypersexual. Mm-hmm. So, since then, I've kind of looked at women more so as objects, or I've had issues with making emotional connections with people. I'm disconnected emotionally. So we'll look at the effect of the incident, but I won't, if they don't see it as traumatic, I won't say, oh, that was traumatic. But we will say, hey, you were at this age and this older person had a better understanding of what was going on than you. And then how does that affect you as far as your understanding of sexuality, or has it affected you at all in your sexual behavior throughout the years?
That's good. Mm-hmm. Well, as far as you saying that you don't necessarily have to get them to understand that this is traumatic, because it may not have had a negative, it might not have been traumatizing, but there's a ripple effect in how it may be affecting other areas of your life.
Yeah.
Got it.
So you mentioned R. Kelly, and I have not followed the whole.
No, I don't want to laugh.
No, I just have one question. I just have one question, because you mentioned him as someone who has been a victim of being sexually violated. Did he say that?
I didn't watch the movie. Like, I'm so sick of R. Kelly and all of this. I didn't watch the movie. I didn't read the Cliff Notes. I don't know. But apparently they were saying that the older sister,
I think,
molested
the brother
him
said that.
And the brother.
I just wanted to know if he said it.
Oh, yeah. I don't think R. Kelly said too much. And I didn't watch the Gayle King interview. Like, I'm over it.
Me as well.
Yeah.
I've just seen the memes. So I don't know. I've just seen the memes.
Like, no.
Talking about trauma and how it affects people, systemic oppression, right? So,
are you hungry, Pasha? Are you hungry? Your stomach is growling.
My stomach is that my stomach? It
Yeah.
probably is. Oh gosh. Systemic oppression, and how certain cultures or certain people, certain genres of the population continue to go through things, whether it changes how it looks because it's 2019, but continue to go through systemic things over and over again that leads to a state of being where their mental health is being affected, such as
poverty,
for one.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it, how you see yourself, it affects how you see yourself as an individual, as a person. So, and it creates a lot of emotions for you. So, we have slavery that we've went through. We have this, financial issues that continue to happen. We have racism that continues to happen. We have our children being killed in the news consistently through violence. We see, other violence against each other continuously occurring throughout. So, that makes you feel something about yourself as a Black male or as a Black woman, that there's not a whole lot of pictures about, us being kings and queens and, uplifting each other. And the good things that are happening in our community is not always being televised. So you're feeling alone and you're feeling separated. And that whole individualistic idea that, I have to have this, I have to have that, and I can't really talk to people about it. It adds to it. So yeah, it's and then you have, since we're not talking about the mental health issues that affect us, it's, there may be somewhere down the line where other people in our family have had suffered from bipolar or depression. So we have that disposition to of several different diagnoses and things like that. So yeah, it's very layered.
It is.
Yeah.
Because so it's 3 of us here. If there were 2 more people in this room, statistically, and I'm going to use 5, but I know we talked about 4, there would be a possibility, even if we added 1 additional person, that one of us would be suffering from a mental health illness, depending on whatever it looks like.
Yes.
And that's numbers based upon the United States.
Correct.
That seems to be, it's just not an issue or a thing that's affecting some people. It's affecting a lot of people.
Yes.
So when we talk about poverty and certain things that may allow you the finances, the continuing to see crime and living in an environment like that, then why isn't it, and I'm just asking this question, then why isn't mental health more on the forefront of certain initiatives, whether it be laws and things of that nature?
Education.
One of the things is that because it may be affecting a certain group of people, that there may not be the resources, whether they be free resources or paid resources, whether you have insurance or not. Some people don't want to go see someone about their illness because there's not someone like them that they can go and that they can relate to. So a lot of people have it that they're thinking that they're going to have to see someone who's not going to be able to understand, who's not going to be able to relate, or even be put in a situation where they're going to be judged by someone, which then allows for them not to go and seek help. So I don't know do you have any stats of how males are represented in the profession, or even people of color?
I don't have stats, but I know for African-American male therapists, we're it's not a whole lot of us.
Unicorns.
Yes. There's, and when we meet each other, we're like, hey, So, yeah, I mean, I know even when I was in school, there was, there'd be some classes and it would just be me, and nothing but women in the classes. It's looked at as, a field that predominantly women, would go into. And so some of my clients, when they call, for the first time, they're like, I'm trying to tell them about what I do and my background and, my specialty. And they're like, are you Black? Are you a man? Okay. We don't need to know anything else. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let's come in. So, yeah, it's, and then I hear the stories of some of them that have went to, other people, of other ethnicities and didn't feel comfortable because they felt like they couldn't relate to what was going on with them. So, yeah, it's few African-American males in the field. I mean, I guess I've come across a lot of African-American females that are in the field. And so of color, it's starting to grow a lot more and more, people of color being in the field and getting themselves out there so people can see it. So,
what brought you to the field of mental health? Let's say mental wellness.
To be honest, let's see. So I did every other job that you can imagine, from construction to sales to retail to security, you name it. I did a whole bunch of jobs after college, even worked in a few clubs and things like that. And I would last maybe about 6 months. And then a friend of mine introduced me into the, mental wellness field. And I was like, okay, I like this. This sounds like something that I can enjoy, and it was rewarding. And then I was at a residential facility for adults with dual diagnosis. So some of them had drug issues along with mental illness. And, I'm talking to them and I'm hearing their stories and what was going on with them. And my supervisor was like, well, get back to work, and I was like, well, I'm listening to their stories. They're like, well, you're not their therapist. I'm like, well, I think I need to become their therapist. So I went back for my master's. And then even then, after going back for my master's, I still did a little community work here and there. But I taught for psychology for about 6 years at West Georgia Tech. And
that's my side of town.
And, the mental health field was still calling me. It was like I was still working, but it felt like I still wanted to do it. So I worked at a few hospitals. But the mental health hospitals, I kept seeing a revolving door. And I kept seeing that the treatment wasn't as effective as I would like it to be. So then it's been a year that I've just focused solely on the practice. So since last April, I said, I'm not working for anyone else. I'm just going to work in the practice and help people in the community.
Awesome. And I know we spoke off air, and I know we're going to roll back to the conversation, but I just want to kind of want you to share about your background. Now, you said you had your practice for a year, but overall, how long have you been in the field?
I've been in the field since 2004. I've had the practice since 2014.
Awesome.
And he's an example of making his passion a profession.
Exactly. Love it.
So you mentioned people, and I know we're using mental wellness.
You can go ahead and say mental health.
Okay. The dual side of it, that there's and I read a statistic that usually someone suffering from one issue or condition, there may be a second issue, and 50% of those people suffering overall, there may be a drug or alcohol component that's tied into that. So how often do you see someone who has that dual issue going on?
And in the hospital, it was quite frequent. In the office, I'm seeing maybe about half of the clients may have had at some point in time used alcohol or drugs to kind of, especially marijuana, that's been the biggest thing, or to kind of self-medicate themselves to kind of work through their issues. So they'll use the drugs and the alcohol. Some of them every day. Some of them, they'll say, "Hey, I just use it socially." But as we continue to explore, we say, "Hey, you're using this when you're feeling anxious, or you're using this when you're depressed to kind of as a Band-Aid to kind of walk you through that situation." So then we try to figure out better, healthier ways to deal with some of these emotions.
Okay. And I was going to ask about the self-medication. I think a lot of people, whether it be past and present, we probably even knew some growing up or in our family that may be self-medicating because of whatever, whether it be because you don't want to acknowledge that you need some type of help or that you have an issue. I think
it just relaxes my nerves, Pasha. It just calm my nerves. That's all.
I'm going to refer her to you. But self-medicating. And like you said, a lot of people that we've seen, celebrities and things of that nature, they have talked about using self-medication as a way to cope before they actually went and got help.
And it's socially acceptable.
Very.
So it's like, you've had a long day. Somebody will call you up. Hey, let's go have a drink. But
or a glass of wine.
Yeah, but alcohol is a depressant, so it's like, hey, I'm depressed. Let me go ahead and give myself some alcohol to help with it. So yeah, it's interesting.
Okay. You have some figures for Georgia, right?
I do. That wasn't where I was going, Pasha, but okay. So in Georgia, there are 10.1 million people in Georgia. I think we were discussing about 1 in 4 individuals in general, and we can kind of scale that down to Georgia statewide, live with depression, schizophrenia, or bipolar. I guess my question is, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to give a response. So my question is,
at
why the negative at
time?
the same damn time? So my question is, why the stigma that's attached? And then I'm going to answer the question. I think I'm just scared because in my head, schizophrenia looks like Jack Nicholson killing somebody. You know, that's what it looks violent because that's what we see in the media and things of that nature. So is that the stigma that's attached to it? Is it being perceived as being weak? Like, what is the stigma?
I mean, yeah, like you're crazy. If you have that particular diagnosis, you're crazy. And they look at, the homeless person that's on the street that's talking to themselves. Or in the movies, the person that just, they're seeing things and they're hearing things and they're trying to harm someone else. So that's the biggest stigma. There's different, someone that has schizophrenia, I mean, a lot of times they're really scared and nervous about it themselves. They're paranoid about what's going on with them. They don't understand what's going on with them. And some of the symptoms that you may see and may be labeled in schizophrenia may not even be schizophrenia. So auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations, sometimes with intense depression or intense anxiety, those things come up as well. So, we don't. So we see these symptoms or we hear about these symptoms and people just suffer by themselves with these things going on and don't even try to get treatment at all.
Now, can we bring it on around to the dating aspect of it? Because
I'm not ready. I have one more. Well, he's talking about, I have a specific question.
Go ahead.
Jesus.
Ready. Put me in the game, Pastor. Put me in the game.
Because we're talking about schizophrenia. You mentioned it. Is there a certain male-female population that's usually more impacted by schizophrenia?
I'd have to, I can't really quote on that. I'm not sure. So I don't want to misquote on it. I've seen, females that have had or been diagnosed with schizophrenia. I've seen men that have been diagnosed with schizophrenia. So I don't know the numbers.
Not more than one.
Than other. No, I'm not. I'm not positive on that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I have a question now. When we talk about these health issues, and since we're talking about depression, schizophrenia, and bipolar in this instance, are these disorders genetic, or are they a result of a traumatic incident? Or can it be both?
It can be both. Yeah, it definitely can be both. So somewhere in the family line, someone may have had the diagnosis and, it's never been addressed or never talked about, and it's there.
So it's in...
It can be genetic.
It can be in the DNA.
Yes.
So the probability is that if you got someone in your lineage that is suffering from bipolar, schizophrenia,
even with depression and
anxiety, that there's someone else in your family that could be, the probability is higher that someone else in your family is going to be affected.
Correct.
Let me ask you this, because sometimes
not Sheneka.
I know.
She's trying to figure out. Are you counting numbers?
No, because I'm slightly, conspiracy
Dude, what is it? That square to where you well, my eyes are brown, and my auntie's eyes are brown. I wonder.
No, because sometimes I question. You're the professional, not me. But sometimes I question the whole genetic DNA thing, right? So if my grandmother, right, had schizophrenia or bipolar or whatever type of disorder, and this is the person that raised my parent, right? Wouldn't my parent pick up some of the characteristics, good or bad, whatever, and maybe have an influence on how they raised me? So is it DNA, or is it just the exposure to it and how you react to the exposure to it?
Well, again, it's the whole concept of nature versus nurture. So like we can go back and forth on that one. Some people may say it is nature, like it's in you. And some people say it's nurture, it's the environment. Okay. So, we could look at it from various different situations. People that were raised in, the projects or difficult environments, and they turn out to become successful, so then we can't say, hey, it wasn't the environment. or people that are in an environment that, is so-called healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And, something happens and they turn to crime or something else. So there is genetics that are involved in the situation, but
Mm-hmm.
also the environment has an impact on how you, and there's several books on, people and several different organizations that help people that have members in their family that are diagnosed with a mental illness, but
Mm-hmm.
it does have an effect.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I just question the whole DNA thing because I'm just thinking if you're exposed to it, almost, and I'm just going to correlate it to obesity. You're working on our summertime fine. But if my parents are eating chicken and waffles every day, and the child is eating chicken and waffles every day, then you say, it's in the DNA? No, your mom in the kitchen cooking chicken and waffles every day.
So there's habits that, and that you pick up, family habits,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's also things, those are learned,
mm-hmm.
and they can be unlearned.
Absolutely.
But there are certain things that, just make up,
Mm-hmm.
that are genetic.
Okay. And maybe coping, how people cope
How people cope, you've
Mm-hmm.
learned that as well.
What I heard Sheneka say was fat people have fat children. That's what I heard.
No, what I'm saying is they pick up bad habits, right?
Yes, bad habits. Let's
bad
go with
habits.
That.
Okay. Okay.
Can we get into the dating thing? So all of this that we spoke about,
Mm-hmm.
We know that you're not single, right? You're single?
No.
Okay. But you've been out here in these streets before, right?
Yes.
So, and you've heard about how it is out here in these streets.
Yes.
Oftentimes out in the dating arena, we dismiss people as, that person's just crazy. That person going through whatever. And what I'm seeing or starting to believe is we have a whole bunch of unresolved traumatic issues, a whole bunch of undiagnosed people out here running around, and we're trying to have other people fix us.
Yeah.
Or people want to be enablers and fix other people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you see crazy? You see that?
You see crazy. Like, it look crazy, it walk crazy, it talk crazy. Why are you engaging it?
Mm-hmm.
Direct it to Mr. Walker over here. And then come see me after the fact. Is this a thing that you see in your practice as far as people recognizing that, okay, whatever I'm going through is having a negative effect on my ability to have or sustain relationships?
Definitely.
Got it.
Romantic relationships
Romantic
other than marriage.
So, you definitely want to look at your family, and
Mm-hmm.
how different things were communicated, since we were talking about family before.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you know your parents were happy? How did you know they were sad? How did you know that they were proud of you? And how did you know that they were, not so pleased with your actions?
Mm-hmm.
And how you communicate and how you learn to communicate. So then when you get into a relationship, all those things affect the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know how to express certain
Mm-hmm.
emotions effectively within a relationship, that can affect the relationship in negative ways. And if you haven't dealt with your own emotions throughout the time span, then now you're carrying that with you. Or if you've had previous relationships that ended terribly, then that's, if you haven't dealt with that effectively, that's coming with you. So there's a lot of things that you bring into the relationship if you're not careful and if you haven't worked through as well.
Is that something that people do? They talk about their emotions and feelings with their children and in households?
Sometimes, but I'm noticing not often.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we're focused on, hey, just punishment,
Mm-hmm.
opposed to expressing how you feel about the situation that occurred and expressing, I have parents that come in and say, hey, he won't open up to me. Well, how do you model that? Like, how do you model how you're feeling? Do you tell them how you're feeling and what's going on? They don't know how to do it because they've never seen it. So,
because you have parents who are scratching and surviving.
Mm-hmm.
Good times,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But I also think traditionally, and I can only speak for African American households, that's where I come from. That's not something that's discussed. There, especially, back in the day, there was definitely children. You shouldn't even be around grown people when grown people are having conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Do as I say. Don't question me. Don't ask me about anything, So I think a lot of that has manifested itself into kind of what we're experiencing today with,
we are the effects of that.
We are the effects of that being out here in these streets.
Yeah. I mean, and just knowing what love and what relationships look like and defining your boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have poor boundaries and they don't realize when someone has crossed those boundaries and are afraid to address those boundaries in a relationship. That's, what was it? I was actually talking to a friend of mine the other day and they're like, yeah, I'm in a non-relationship. Like, what do you mean a non-relationship?
What is that?
Well, I'm doing everything like we're in a relationship, but he keeps telling me I'm not in a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, well, you don't have the boundaries aren't there. You're doing too much there. If you're not comfortable with it, but you keep doing it in hopes that he change his mind, then it's if your kid is drawing on the wall and you don't say anything about it, he's going to keep drawing on the wall.
Look at me, mommy.
Yeah.
In a non-relationship. Okay. The violence that's perpetuated that we see every day, especially on the news, there just seems to be more instances of unspeakable things, whether they be. Did you have something, Sheneka, before I segue?
Because I just read it. I apologize. So let me read this.
Oh my God.
I know. I want to read this from Psychology Today. And I just want to bring it up because it has to do with relationships. And I know we were talking about getting help before you get into relationships. So this is from Psychology Today. It says, research indicates that recovery is fostered when people with mental illness obtain and engage in normative social roles, such as gainful employment. Being coupled up is one of the most normative and desirable social roles in Western societies. Their research showed that the vast majority of participants with mental illness stated a strong desire for a meaningful and satisfying romantic relationship. However, few achieve this goal. So, with that being said, if you have a bunch of people out here who are, and I'm just going to say, looking for love, but again, they have all of these issues that's impacting their ability to achieve that, isn't that just kind of creating a snowball effect with, worsening the condition?
Well, yeah. Someone that is diagnosed with a mental illness isn't broken. They're still a human being. They still want love. They still want affection. And they may have that diagnosis, but it doesn't mean that they're not functioning effectively. They may be receiving treatment. So they may be going to their therapist. They may be on the medication, which is keeping them stable. So they recognize their symptoms. They understand their symptoms and they're able to cope with those symptoms. So it'd be the same thing as telling someone who is diabetic that they can't be in a relationship. If you're managing your diabetes effectively, then you're okay. So the problem occurs, and it's just with anything. If you're not taking care of yourself, then that will affect the relationship. So if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not making sure that you're stable and then entering to a relationship, then that's when the problems occur. So it doesn't mean, hey, I have a mental illness and I can never date anyone. I can't be happy. No, that's not true.
And I think that goes back to just the stigma that's attached to it because, again, I think for so long we've seen this picture of how mental illness looks. And it's kind of hard to correlate it to the average Joe on the street who may be a functioning
But see,
whatever.
that's the problem. We need to see more people who are they're living with their condition and they're managing their condition so that we can change what that stigma or what the face of mental health looks like. The face of mental health to me a part of it is homelessness. A part of it is people who are unable to manage their illness. But the bigger face of mental health is just like us in this room. Like I think any point in time, or almost in everybody's life at some point in time, they've suffered at least anxiety, right? Whether it has been depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk about even those conditions, I think more people with a mental health illness looks like any of us in this room versus what the worst of or the unmanageable person who's not managing or dealing with.
Like it isn't just you're in this box. There's a spectrum to it. Mm-hmm. There's layers to bipolar. There's layers to schizophrenia and depression and things of that nature. It's not just the extreme.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, I mean, and then in the relationships, people just that get into these relationships and may be diagnosed with these issues, they're scared to share about them, because of, and then they'll stop taking their medication or they'll stop going to their therapist. Now you have a whole nother issue, so. Yeah.
And that's what I hear often. I hear that some people who are, no matter what the condition is, let's say it's depression, when something or their life is going a little bit better or their medication is working for them and, everything is good, they stop taking the medication. And then that's when an episode happens. And it's kind of like, it's like a reset all the time if you're not in the moment or willing to acknowledge the fact that you have to take this medication because this is what you need.
Yeah.
Not that I know this person personally, but I have known someone who from the beginning, male, he was around in his mid-20s, started to display certain characteristics. They did diagnose him as being schizophrenic. And he did not have the support from his mother, or I'm going to say from parents, like he should have. And they wanted to pray away.
Yeah.
Ooh, you gotta leave black
they wanted to pray it away.
Stop.
And instead of looking at where we are and all the resources that may be available, it was, well, we're going to pray it away. No, you need to get this person their medication and have these conversations and find these resources and this support, because I'm not opposed to anybody's religion, but you're looking for that miracle, that beam of light, and he's okay. No, the beam of light may be that now you have all these resources. Go ahead and use them.
Yeah. Well, it's like God helps those that help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, prayer is always helpful. It's a good coping skill. It's also like meditations. And it's definitely helpful, but there's other things that you should do in addition to it, not just that. You have to get out there and learn about what's going on with you. After you learn about it, then use everything that you have at your disposal to help you with the situation effectively.
How often does therapy or treatment involve medication?
More like.
I refer my clients to different psychiatrists in the community. So, we talk a little bit about the medication if they're using their medication. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't really. But I feel like if you're at that bottom floor where you can't even get up, and you can't even stand up, and you can't even walk, then the medication is definitely useful. I tell them, hey, it's about 25% of it. The other 75% is definitely your ability to cope. So we need to figure out how can we better cope. But before we can get to that point, you may need some assistance. So the medication may be necessary. So I'll, send them to a psychiatrist that I know in the field, and, they'll evaluate them and see if any medications help or what medications may help.
So seeing that we're so media driven and that's where we usually get all our information per se, there, to me, has been an increase of violence, whether it be domestic violence, violence against children, violence against communities, such as the mass killings, whether it be at churches, mosques, concerts, things of that nature. And there's usually an underlying the person may have been suffering from some type of mental health illness. So there are sometimes people around them who could have identified certain things, not leading up to why they did it, but kind of explaining the oh, okay, well, we saw them going through this. So if you happen to find yourself around someone who you think could need some help, what do you suggest as someone who wants to support that person? What should you do?
Well, I mean, first talk to them. If you see something, make sure that you talk to them. Don't just, and if they do share, hey, there's something going on, I'm not feeling right, work and
that's you, Willamar.
That's my if you then try to get other people involved. Sometimes we see someone that's having these issues and we don't want to say anything or they tell us don't say anything to anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But start reaching out to other people in the circle, other professionals. If there's counselors around, talk to the counselor, talk to the family, get people involved to give them that additional support that there is. And if they're saying, hey, you know what, I'm feeling very suicidal or whatever, or I'm feeling homicidal, then at that point in time, they have crisis hotlines that you can call that can come in and evaluate. There's tons of hospitals and mental health hospitals they can go to. You can use Psychology Today and look up different therapists that are in the area, and take them there so that way they can start talking more and working through whatever it is that they're dealing with. But don't ignore it. Don't sleep under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure that you're there and you're assisting with gathering the support that they may need.
Can we go back to social media? So oftentimes when people talk about social media, it's like it's a double-edged sword. It's a good aspect of it as far as it connects people from all over the world, but the negative issue is not only all the negative media that goes on, but also it kind of disconnects us as well because people isolate themselves and they're on their phone all the time. Or they isolate themselves and they're on the computer all the time instead of engaging with people. And I don't know if there's statistics or anything to support this, but do you think with the with social media that it's contributing more so to some of these illnesses because people aren't connecting in general?
Yeah, I mean they're isolating. I've even seen some studies that said it's almost like an addiction. To being addicted to being on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't put the phone down. It's always in their reach and they're constantly looking at other people's lives. And then when they're in social settings, you see them constantly on their phone and not putting them down and not communicating, not socializing, not allowing themselves to be present. They're somewhere else. They're trying to live someone else's life as they see it on social media. So it definitely has effect. We talked about how it affects self-esteem because you're comparing yourself to these other people on social media. But then also it does, for some, it's useful to connect to people that you may not have seen in a while. So, you may send a message to someone here and there. But when you're just constantly scrolling and just, looking at pictures or not even engaging on there really, or some people don't even know how to hold a full conversation because, they're just stuck in social media and on the phone. So it definitely affects them. That isolation continues and isolation does create more depression and sometimes even anxiety. So,
So whereas somebody may feel like they're actually engaged because they're on their phone chatting with people or just scrolling, in actuality, they are disengaged and it could be creating a situation that may manifest itself into a condition such as depression.
Yes, it could over time. But you find that some of them after a while won't even engage on social media at all. They start isolating that way even more, even from social media and chatting. But it's just those basic skills of being able to be in front of people and talk and communicate with them. And even the energy that comes from being around people and even the energy, I've seen a lot of studies where we're deficient in, vitamin D, because we're staying in the house, we're staying on the computer, we're not outside, we're not getting sunlight, we're not engaging with, the world itself. So it has an effect.
So I guess as you were talking, this came to my mind. So as technology continues to develop And as adults, we expose children to the technology because, you know, we have to keep up. How does an adult or parent, guardian kind of find that healthy balance between exposing their children to the technology and not creating a situation where they feel isolated and can't hold conversations and can't engage in productive interactions?
So, in moderation. I think just making sure that you
define moderation.
Yeah, I mean,
isn't that different for each person? What moderation looks like?
I mean, if your kid is on the phone all day, every day, you know, and not studying and not, you know, participating in other activities, you know, then yeah, you want to kind of decrease that a little bit. Like now they're tied to the phone, like that's their drug of choice.
But what if their family is encompassed of people who's always using technology? Then is that an issue? So let's say you have a mother that works morning shift, you have a father that works evening shift, you have children who, you know, have to depend on this technology, whether it be to stay in contact with family, friends, things of that nature. Not saying that they should be stuck, not saying that we should all be sitting at the kitchen table or at the dining room table eating dinner and everybody be on their phone. I think that's an issue. Yeah. But I think depending on what someone's life looks like will determine if it's too much.
Yeah, and how they function. If it's affecting their ability to function in different areas, then we definitely know it's an issue.
Because unfortunately, everything is being pushed towards a technology-based approach.
Even the schools. Yeah.
Yeah. They've issued devices to kids for them to be able to physically have a laptop. So I'm not saying that the teachers aren't teaching. What I'm saying is that they've utilized the devices or the computers, the laptop as a tool so that kids are in school where normally it was paper, pen, teacher. No, now it's computer, paper. I don't even think it's paper. Computer, teacher, and they're drawing them towards technology anyway. So
it's like log in. The assignment is on, you know, is
on the whiteboard. The electronic whiteboard. Yeah.
You have something else? Because I'm about to ramble.
Well, we're kind of towards the end.
No. Okay, so real quick. So I was watching.
So you're about to ramble.
Yeah,
I am. So oftentimes I hear a lot of celebrities, apparently anxiety disorders is like this thing now. I'm just hearing a lot about it. I don't know if it's a thing.
I'm not dealing with Sheneka.
Stop. Listen to me.
It's not a thing. I think everybody suffers from anxiety. Everybody.
We have a fight or flight response. It becomes anxiety when there's really no real threat that's present. So. But in your mind, there's a threat.
So everybody suffers from anxiety?
Everybody experiences anxiety at one point in time. That's what I'm going to change my statement to.
Come
on, Lamar.
Don't do it, Lamar.
Come to the side.
I'm trying.
So I was listening to...
Some people may have... Some people don't.
I think it's the way that they... Is it the way that they deal with it?
Or how you... roller coasters may make someone anxious, but for some people, that's fun.
Roller coasters make me want to die.
Okay,
but they're fun.
They're not fun.
No. So
they're not fun.
It's a good rush.
No,
you know, so you're scared, but it's like
exactly.
No.
See,
I'm serious. For me, I think I will die on a roller coaster.
So certain experiences create anxiety for people, where for some people it doesn't create a level of anxiety. Some people they may have some situations that make them feel a little worried, but not to the point to where they're completely anxious.
So what's the definition of anxiety?
How do I completely define it?
Define it in your terms. Define it so that the peoples understand.
So when there's a situation or something that you're just, and it's not a dangerous situation, and it's not one that can harm you, but you have this intense fear of it, and you either avoid it completely, or you, with anxiety, there's also checking behavior. You're constantly checking based off of that fear. And it may escalate to the point to where it starts to affect you physically. Your heart is racing, you're sweating, you're confused. That's what anxiety tends to look like.
And see, this is why I think, and I'm nowhere licensed to have a professional opinion about this, but I think people feel anxiety.
Let me feel nervous, and then that nervousness, you're in your head about it, which produces anxiety for you. Now you're hyper focused on whatever it is that may make you slightly nervous, because being nervous is everyone gets nervous about situations, but now you're just hyper focused on it, and then now it's anxiety. Now it's big.
Is anxiety usually surrounded by a situation or a scenario that you can't control?
Or feel like you can't control.
And see, this is for me why I feel as though everybody at some point in time, whether it's fear or a full-blown panic attack, I think everybody, we've all been in situations interviewing for a job. I'm going to say even meeting someone that for the first time on a date or something like that. I classify that all as not necessarily, you have an anxiety disorder, but you've been
just anxious.
Yes, we'll go with that then.
Okay.
Everyone has felt a little anxious about something.
Okay.
So it crosses the line when it becomes, as a result, when that trigger isn't there.
Yes. And it's perpetuated itself for a longer period of time.
Okay.
Continuously.
Okay.
And it's hindering your ability to do quite a few things that you would normally do.
Like get on a roller coaster.
Let me tell you something. So I have a deathly fear, and this is I'm sharing this. Y'all can laugh at me if you want.
Oh my God! I was going to say it, but I'm like, no, I'm going to say it.
I'm going to say it
and laugh at her, Lamar. I'm sorry.
I have a deathly fear of killer whales.
Oh.
In the pool.
Wait, he said
in the pool.
In a pool.
So I know killer whales are not in pools. I know that.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Never know what?
What's at the deep end of the pool?
How would the killer whale get into the pool?
See, now you're asking me questions that if
it's fresh water with chlorine in it.
I think I saw the movie Orca.
Okay.
When I was too young.
Okay.
Right? And first and foremost, they're called killer whales for a reason.
Okay. But I think they're really called orcas.
Yeah.
But I think we termed them killer whales. But we'll go with that.
There's a couch right here.
That's just the fear that I have. I know it doesn't make any sense. I know it. I know that killer whales can't be in pools, but they are in pools at SeaWorld. Hello.
So can you swim?
Of course not, Lamar.
So you can't swim.
Because there are killer whales in the pool.
Was there ever like a killer whale floaty in the pool one time at some point in time?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
So you've seen the movie Orca, and then you can't swim. So, yeah, to kind of put both of those together.
And I'm not, and that's a fear that I want to conquer. But, like, I think if I had to there was also a couple of drowning incidents. Okay.
Oh, see, now we're getting somewhere. Okay.
Something that makes more sense.
No, I mean, it makes sense. Definitely, yeah.
So to overcome this fear, my objective is to learn how to not fear water.
So are you taking swimming lessons anytime soon?
I got so much to do.
So you're not making yourself a priority?
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, the best way to get over any fear is to kind of face the fear, like desensitize yourself to it. So the swim lessons will be good. And then maybe going to SeaWorld start small. Maybe look at a picture of an orca and then, maybe, we'll go even smaller. Maybe
please.
Does even talking about orcas give you a level of anxiety?
Yeah, it does. Seriously.
Okay, so start with the little conversations about them. Then move into maybe some pictures. And then as you go through these experiences, learn some relaxation techniques that you do daily as you introduce yourself to these different experiences to face your fear.
Because if we were ever on a team, right, like
A swim team or something?
not even a swim team. You know how they have like the competition teams where you got to do certain things?
Oh, yeah, like the races.
Yeah. And we was all on the team, and they was like, Pasha, you're up. I need you to stick your hand in this pool with the killer whale. I'm talking about the killer whale could be 200 feet across the pool. Just stick there. Y'all gonna win $10 million. Y'all ain't gonna be a millionaire.
Oh, Pasha getting pushed in there.
I may get pushed. Pasha will not be sticking her hand in there. Y'all won't be no millionaires. Because
we need to go to the aquarium.
Nah, I can't do that right now.
That's too much?
Not ready yet.
No.
Slow and steady steps.
And she need not go with me, because when I tell you, Lamar, it's going to be a situation.
Yeah. I mean, what's the likelihood of you coming across a killer whale, really? I mean, I think the issue with the pool, we may try to work on a little
dreams.
bit.
Killer whales have tried to kill me in my dream. Come on. No, I'm serious. Like, I'm not going to see a killer whale. I have no need to. Mm-hmm. You know what? They stay on their side of the street. I stay on my side of the street. Okay. And we good. No. But I'm gonna face the fear of the water. I think that's
baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yeah.
Because if I can, at least not drown in the water if I had an opportunity, to.
But why killer?
I don't know.
Sharks? Do you like sharks? Sharks okay? It's just not killer whales. It's just killer whales.
So, sharks don't create. I don't feel anxious when you talk about sharks.
That movie, that whole
movie. It's the movie.
Yeah, the introduction of that movie.
Yeah. That whale was killing everybody.
So parents, be mindful of what you're exposing your children to on TV, because it may have a negative impact on them long term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I wanted to say it, but I'm like, no, don't do it. But I'm glad you shared that with everybody.
Of course. I'm transparent sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh my. And with that said, I'm just going to
You're going to tell us about your fear?
Yeah, what fear do you have, Sheneka?
Well, I don't want to talk about that. Well, I am afraid of animals, just critters, period.
Animals, period. Cats, dogs.
Yes. But I was bitten by a dog when I was very, very young. Oh, so I think that's reasonable.
I don't think it's reasonable.
that I have. But how do you get... So even with this whole thing, and even though, I make light of it, you are going to have people like me who are looking at her like, girl, what is wrong with you? And so what kind of advice can you give to people like me who are looking at people like her like, girl?
Just think about the feeling.
Right.
The emotion.
Oh,
like,
empathize.
Empathy.
Whoa.
So, yeah, you don't like critters, she don't like orcas. I mean, neither one is better. So if I brought a dog in here right now, you'd be upset.
I'd just be like...
And I'd be good.
Yeah. Dog.
So,
but to me, that makes sense.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
This stuff ain't never seen an orca before in her life.
But if you take her to SeaWorld, she's going to have a fit.
I shoot that place
A mess.
All right, so we're at the end of our podcast, but I do want to, there is something else that I want to bring up. Just recently in Georgia, and I know this doesn't have anything to do directly with it, but the HB 481 bill, the heartbeat bill, that just became law in Georgia. I believe it just became law also in Alabama and Missouri.
I think it goes into effect in January, though.
Right. It's not a fact, but it's signed, so it's a law. My fear is that we're talking about mental health, and now the anxiety that it's going to create for women and men, I'm going to say, but more women in these states that have less options if they were to become pregnant.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody about the other day that, God forbid, that they resort to other means that aren't safe, because they feel like there's nothing else that they can do and feeling hopeless in those situations. So, yeah, it's scary. Definitely scary.
All right, Lamar, give us your information. Tell the people about you, where they can find you, if they want to seek you for services, if they want to just call you and ask you, are you a Black man? Can I come see you?
Well, the website for the office is mindfulworkscounseling.org. The phone number for the office is 678-960-8379. And the office is located on 195 West Pike Street, Suite 209, and that's in Gwinnett.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Sheneka, you have anything else?
I really enjoyed this conversation. And I just think we can just keep going on and on and on because, again, just dealing with people on a regular basis, whether it's at your job, whether it's at the grocery store, whether it's dating people, you see the manifestation of all of this that we're talking about. But for whatever reason, we aren't moving forward. I'm going to say we aren't moving forward in addressing some of these issues that we may have that may be having an effect long term or whatever on our abilities to just thrive as people and connect with people. So I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for sharing your expertise. Hopefully we can continue the conversation. Again, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. It's the 70th anniversary. And I hope that people continue to seek out services that people like you provide.
Thank you.
So yeah, get some help, everybody. Talk to somebody.
My takeaway is that mental health or someone suffering from a condition look just like us. So also to be empathetic, because it could be the person sitting next to you. It could be a brother, a mother, things of that nature. And don't forget to communicate and help people. Be a helper to those, no matter if it's just a day-to-day thing or if someone's coming to you with something, just be okay with talking about it. And even if you don't know what to say at the moment, listen and try to get the person at least some help or get some resources so that they don't feel like they're going through it by themselves.
And you don't have to have serious issues to go see a therapist or what we consider serious issues. Any type of changes create an emotion for you, and just being able to sit down and talk to someone and them to listen to you, it helps. I feel like anybody can come see a therapist and it has its own rewards.
And I think therapy is great for mental maintenance.
Yeah.
I like that term. Mental maintenance. Is that a word?
I believe so.
Okay. Whatever. Love it. Love it.
So again, thank you for tuning in with us today, and we'll see you next time.